So I'm here to talk about Superman, the first film meant to basically be the Kickstarter for this new cinematic universe from James Gunn. Movie of 2025, at least thus far. There have been some really good ones thus far. Sinners was amazing. I think that's the best movie of the year thus far. I was waiting for Mission Impossible, which I enjoyed. Thunderbolts was pretty good. I am a huge James Gunn fan. I adore his films. I adore his aesthetic. I adore his brand. I adore him. I just love his kind of demeanor and vibes. Kind of stick it to the man kind of is one of the reasons I love Peacemaker and Creature Commandos. I mean, I've watched Peacemaker, I think, like 2 times. Like twice over have I watched the entire series. But I love him as a filmmaker and as an artist. I was also very excited that he would be taking over, his leadership of DC in cinematic form. So I think there's just like so many good things optically with this situation and this scenario. I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings about the movie. I saw it on Thursday, so the Thursday night or evening or Thursday previews. I know it broke some records. I wanted to love this film. And there were so many things to love about this film. Like if I were to kind of describe it in just like a few words, it's a beautiful mess. This film is gorgeous to look at. It is stylistically beautiful, as is to be expected from James Gunn. But this movie and its narrative is just all over the place. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, part of that makes me disappointed, and more than that, I'm confused. I've just never seen a James Gunn movie with less narrative focus than this. So I'm more like shocked and a little startled, a bit aghast and confused. It's just like, what happened here? So I'm gonna get as granular as possible. Let's start with this. Let's start with the length of the movie, which is 2 hours and 9 minutes, and that includes credits and post credits. I think those post-credit scenes were wasted, and I know James Gunn has said that he doesn't really want to make these, kind of like sequel baiting kind of moments. I think that there could have been more usage of those post-credit scenes to even like tie up some things in the movie. But 2 hours and 9 minutes for me is like kind of a perfect length of a movie. But this movie felt like it needed to be longer, and I have a feeling that this movie was longer in a director's cut sort of fashion. I think this movie, it had to have been maybe 2 hours and 30 minutes, where about 20 minutes of this movie was cut. And I feel like, and I know a lot of people are saying this, the way that the movie started with like the text crawl sort of thing, which did remind me of a comic book's way of introducing things, early on. And often it kind of like almost zooms in to like the point where we are to begin the movie. So in a way, I felt like it did that, which was cool and clever, and I like what it said, 300 years and 30 years, and blah, blah, blah. But the fact that that's how we began the movie, with him expositing through text what happened before this, I immediately was like, well, are we going to see that? Are we going to see him have his first battle that he loses, which in hindsight, having seen the whole movie, I'm like, wouldn't this have been a marvelous way to introduce us to this version of Superman? Seeing him be defeated by this Hammer of Baravia in his during his interactions with the president of, Baravia, and the whole conflict. I mean, and also to establish the plot, and also to establish, like, what the stakes are and why we should care. So the fact that this movie like began with a tell don't show kind of like perspective and kind of like philosophy was my immediate indicator that I don't think I'm gonna really love this movie or maybe even like this movie. From that point on, not only was I more like scrutinous of the movie, they better like kind of remedy this. So I know I'm fixating on just like the first like minute of the movie, but I mean in on paper, as from a screenwriter's perspective, that first page needs to be like amazing. But that's the whole point here is that like it doesn't matter because James Gunn doesn't really need to be amazing at this point. James Gunn just needs to be James Gunn. All that's really above him are David Zaslav and I guess the shareholders. And I'm sure at this point he probably owns like a great deal of shares of the company himself. So, okay, like it's a weak start to the movie already. And okay, so we're sort of going and going, and we're being introduced to this fortress of solitude, and like all of that is cool, and the robots were funny, and the James Gunn humor is there. It's like it's working, like I'm laughing, like the jokes are funny, crypto is funny, the Bradley Cooper thing, like Bradley Cooper's presence didn't bother me in one bit, but I tell you what did bother me is the fact that they just kept repeating that like one soundbite from the Kryptonian message, like over and over and over and over, and I'm just like, okay, now I know that piece of Kryptonian dialect, and probably time to just address the elephant in the room. I don't know how I feel about it at this point. I think I need to see it again. Like on paper, I don't mind that they change the guidance that the elves have given to their son. I don't really mind on paper that they sent him to Earth to conquer. I just don't know how I feel about it. I think a lot of comic book versions and iterations have like toyed with Batman's parents kind of not being saints, and so like I am okay with it to a degree. I just don't really feel like the movie maximizes that plot line. And that kind of leads me to the kind of main character arc of Superman in this movie, which is like, how do I deal with kind of not being loved and being like this kind of saintly, god-like figure of hope for people that I thought I was? I feel like that's the plot of like every Superman movie. Superman Returns, why the world doesn't need Superman, right? Like Man of Steel. Man of Steel, it flirts with it because it's just his origin, but then Batman versus Superman. Like, this is exactly the plot of Batman versus Superman. And it does make me kind of question, like, so why do people hate that so much? Like, where that is still the plot. I guess it's in execution. And for the record, I like those movies. They're also a mixed bag. They're also like far from perfect, but I get enjoyment out of them, and I can respect and appreciate Zack Snyder committing to his vision. I think that deserves respect. I mean, like I don't think he was only trying to differentiate himself or DC from Marvel. I think like legitimately these are his cinematic sensibilities. He doesn't make light, fair movies. Like they're all dark. So, you can't really criticize him for that. I guess people just wanted different from their DC movies. I mean, I was just okay with it. And I like Man of Steel. It's weird how everybody says it's like the most depressing movie ever, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe that's not what people say, but, I still was uplifted by the movie somehow. I think my point is, his arc in the movie was not really that dissimilar from like every other Superman movie, so I don't know if I can give it major points for its inspiration there, or novelty or newness in that regard. But okay, like that's all right. Now, there's a lot of criticism about the first act of the movie that it jumps around too much. I can agree with that probably. I think it's not. I think overall it's just not a well-paced movie. I think, again, the container of the movie is just too small for what it wants to accomplish. There are so many plot lines, there are far too many characters for this to really have any narrative focus. And I feel like, honestly, Superman was not really center stage in the movie enough for me to like be fully on board with this as a Superman movie. It was more like Superman and the Justice Gang, and I found the Justice Gang more compelling. I think Mr. Terrific, not only did he steal the show, but I feel like he had a more interesting character arc in the movie. I think, like, even Guy Gardner had a pretty, I mean, he didn't really have an arc, but he was a great support man in this movie. You know, Hawk Girl, she was fine. They underwrote her. And, you know, kind of a waste of a talented actress. You guys cast one of the best actors, like, maybe alive? You guys cast Wendell motherfucking Pierce as Perry White in this movie. Like, like, what were you thinking? He does nothing in the film. Like, he's in it for maybe he has like a minute and 30 seconds of screen time, and I felt like this was just a travesty. This is Wendell motherfucking Pierce. Like, this is a great actor, and what? Like, what? So I'm like a little confused. This is again the thing that leads me to believe that there were things that were just like cut out of this movie. I would not be surprised if they did shoot stuff that was like meant to be like more introductory to the film. You know, with Superman like fighting in Barabia or whatever, or losing the battle. And if not, then I really just question like the writing of the movie. Characters all around were just not really given enough backstory, I guess. I mean, I think this movie kind of relies on everybody knowing about Superman, you know, and having seen some Superman related media. And, you know, I guess that's enough for people. I don't know. I think I would have liked a little bit of a truncated version of the origin of this version of Superman. You know, we can see and kind of like get to know a little bit more of what he was about. And, you know, maybe even like things leading up to the message left by the parents that was kind of then fragmented, you know, or something like that, and like the planet explodes or whatever. But, you know, I just kind of felt a little bit like we are not only just jumping right in, like we are fucking being thrown in here. And I think like this movie overall, it focuses more on the world building, rather than character development or character backstories being evident through the characterization of the in the film. And like for for me, I still liked all of the characters. I really enjoyed everybody. You know, I think David Corenswet did a really good job. You know, he did a great job with the script that he was given. I think that goes for everybody across the board, that the actors and the acting kind of elevates the material, which I'm happy to say. You know, they were giving it their all, and I think they all believed in like what the film was like meant to be about. I just feel like the movie kind of was so unfocused that I couldn't really focus on what I was meant to be caring about at what particular moment. Unfortunately, I cannot say that this movie like was truly teleporting. It didn't. I wasn't like fully immersed in it. The last time I felt that was when I saw Sinners. I was fully immersed. I didn't think about my personal life at all, not even once during the watching of this movie. And that's because it was just so engrossing. Like every single detail of the film, like just had me, and I wanted to know what was going to happen. And it was less predictable. I loved Rachel Brosnahan. I think she's like perfectly cast in this role. I really loved Nicholas Hoult. I think he was a really good Lex Luthor. Again, it's just the fact that there was not enough on the page for me to like root for or to hate. I mean, you can hate people's behavior, right? Like you can hate that he's mean and that he doesn't like Superman, but I'm waiting to like kind of dig deeper into like what this hatred is about. I hate to just be comparing it, but like, when it comes to like the Jesse Eisenberg version and with Batman versus Superman, it's like at the very least it's more flushed out, and I understand why he's doing what he's doing. Like I get it. It like this movie should have been going for the Oscar. I swear. I'm not being hyperbolic here. I really feel, and maybe not for like best picture, but for like best adapted screenplay or for like best special effects or costume design. And I just like feel like none of these elements were really, like that excellently executed. Like they were just fine for me. I mean, if we want to hone in on something very superficial, I still really don't like this suit. I found it to be distracting. Like from far away, it looks great. Like there's this shot later in the movie where he kind of like returns and he's like saving everybody, and it's like in the distance, and like the silhouette is great, and it looks like Superman. But like throughout the movie, I'm just like, God, it's so fucking busy, and like this trimming, and like, what's the point of this? Like, why do we need to like do this? I am not a purist in any sense. Trust me on that. But I really do like the Man of Steel suit. I think it's beautifully designed. Like it's got like a clear sense of like culturalism of Krypton embedded in it. You can see that in the symbols. You can see that in like the embroidery and all of that. And it looks alien. And I know that that was their intention. I don't really know what the intention was here. Maybe their whole point here was like, we can't be too challenging, but we can't be too simple. We can't be too overly stylistic and unique, but we can't do too little. Like, it's got to be colorful, but it can't be this sort of like warring between like being too much and too little, and honestly just being too safe. And aside from the big swing of like the whole parentage subplot, whatever, which it doesn't really go anywhere, or at least it's not like satisfying enough for me to feel like fulfilled by that at the end. A big section of the movie was devoted to this like pocket universe thing. Now that was cool. Like in principle, it's cool. I enjoyed like just the sci-fi, crazy, wacky nature of it. And I think overall I did enjoy that, like in the film. I'm certainly not here to just like be always grounded. And I don't need like a ton of explanation, but I do need some logic here and there. And I'm not saying that the pocket dimension like wasn't necessarily logical, but I'm feeling like a lot of things were just kind of thrown away of being explained. I mean, we're in this pocket world, and then we meet Metamorpho, who's in this prison cell for what reason we do not know. And this is like this incredibly powerful hero. And I'm just like, how did he fucking get locked in there? Okay, they have the baby as a hostage. I don't know. I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy that like this super powerful character who can like transform into anything like would be in this situation. So again, it was just more of like convenience written into the movie. They needed a character who like could become kryptonite, and they're like, well, there's no kryptonite in the world, so this is like your way to like explain why Metamorpho's in the movie, and I'm just not really buying it. Like, I don't need Metamorpho in the movie at all. We have this whole little side quest with Mr. Terrific and Lois, which was probably one of the more interesting parts of the movie, where we're just getting to follow somebody that we are, or two characters that we're kind of getting invested in. And then Crypto returns, and then they're in the sea of whatever molecular stuff that they're in, and it looked okay. I mean, it looked like a little bit like Super Mario vibes or something. Like I dig the psychedelic stuff. Like I really like it, but it just felt like it was not, it just didn't hit me like it does in Guardians. Like in Guardians 2, which is my favorite one of the three, the beginning of the movie has that like those monsters, the ones that eat the batteries, and they like vomit like gorgeous confetti glitter shit. And I fucking love that. The shit is fucking beautiful to look at, and it doesn't need explanation, and it's really ridiculous and outlandish, but I don't know, for some reason it just works. It's more about like the placement. And here I just like I'm not that impressed, you know. Maybe I wasn't meant to be. I don't know. I feel like a movie's purpose is to be impressive. The black hole stuff was cool. Even from a logical standpoint, though, like why would his super breath push them away from a black hole where friction becomes like moot? You know, like even for Superman, I don't know. I mean, like it just like felt like okay, even that was a little bit like of a reach. And I'm not asking for like scientific plausibility here. I'm not even asking for that. But like, it just felt off. It just didn't feel right, you know? Let's talk about how like Superman gets his ass kicked throughout the movie. I'm okay with it, I guess. I mean, like, I guess part of me does really want to see Superman just like go apeshit on stuff. You know, I thought that they were just gonna portray him similarly because I knew about this. Like, James Gunn spoke about this in an interview where he was saying, like, I think this is probably a less powerful version of Superman. But I didn't think that that meant that he was just going to get his ass beat the whole time. Like, I thought it was going to be more of like a Superman the Animated Series version where he can't breathe in space. Picking up an airplane is like, you know, a little hard for him. You know, it's like he's lifting to failure, you know, doing something like that. And to me, that is enough to humble Superman. You know, it doesn't really make him less OP because like it's still like ridiculously powerful compared to every other superhero or comic book character. So I don't know. I don't really feel like it did anything for me, like in the movie, like the fact that he was, you know, that characters found his vulnerability so much. I mean, I guess like that's okay to me. Talking about the Justice Gang, we could talk about. Kind of would have rather just been watching. I mean, like, why couldn't that have been the first movie? You know, like I feel like that people would have gone to see it. I mean, it's like a little bit more on brand with James Gunn. You know, like more akin to like the Suicide Squad. And then, I mean, it's a shame that Thunderbolts got there first, and like you know they could have done the tearaway poster where they're like you know the JSA or whatever, you know, call it the JSA by the end of the movie. Um, but I don't know. I mean, like I just felt like those characters were more fun. They were newer. I mean, let me just tell you, Mr. Terrific is one of my favorite superheroes. I mean, just the fact that he's in this movie was very pleasing to me. I think he was well executed, well written, like on brand with the character. He is, you know, he hates being vulnerable. You know, he's like the third smartest person in the DCU. So Mr. Terrific was great. He stole the movie. Let's talk about Ultraman, okay? Um, Ultraman. I really feel like Ultraman did not need to be in this movie. I think, like, on a symbolic level, I understand what the intent was, you know, to have this dark version of Superman and sort of like Superman's, you know, worst nightmare or what Superman is afraid of becoming. So I understand it in principle. I don't think it's well executed though, because you know he's just an automaton. He has no feelings. He has no, you know, sense of agency on his own. It's not like he's being evil because he wants to or because his parents told him to be evil. I mean, maybe so. Maybe like that's what the point of Lex Luthor controlling him. But he's like a computer, you know. So it's not really the same thing. It's not like he has a soul. So I don't really know why he had to be in this movie. I feel like the engineer was enough and enough of a formidable threat for him. And I guess it was also like this amalgamation of Ultraman and Bizarro, and you know any other kind of Superman clone, the Eradicator, or like whatever it is. But you know, I just like, didn't feel like it needed to be there, and I felt like enough was addressed of like the loss of humanity with the engineer in the beginning. So once again, it's just like it's all great ideas, and just every single idea is glossed over. Nothing is really expounded upon. Everything is just like one line, and that's all we're given to like kind of feel like we understand the emotional kind of core of the movie or emotional nuances of the movie, and that's the biggest problem here, is that the movie just did not have me feeling emotional. You know, the one scene, and I did get teared up, and Clark and his dad was beautiful, and I really loved it, and I did tear up. So that was a very real moment, and I was just kind of waiting for a moment like that, you know, up until that point, and that's like the I guess the dark night of the soul moment in the movie, like right before Act Three, and I just felt like the movie just did not have me there. It did not have me on an emotional level. You know, I think on another thing, like back to the villains. I mean, when are we gonna get Brainiac? You know, like when are we gonna get Parasite? When are we gonna get Metallo? When are we gonna get like some of the dopest of the rogues? I mean, I just feel like there must be some really bizarre reason that we're avoiding Brainiac. I don't really feel like Brainiac would be very difficult to execute. I feel like there's been so many interpretations. It's kind of easy enough to do. But okay. I mean, we need to put in Razor Blade Lady with questionable inclusions, and like, why did this movie need to have so many things in it? I guess it's just because they needed to establish that superheroes are here and or metahumans are here, and that like it's like another day in Metropolis. It's like nobody's blinking an eye that there's a kaiju in the city. That's you know, I like that. I do like that. Kaiju's fine, but I feel like the kaiju could have been like any of these other characters that I just mentioned in a subplot of the movie. I guess it just wanted to feel big, literally. So okay, once again, like it's just like it leaves me feeling like, yeah, it was fine. I wasn't like enamored or blown away by this damn kaiju. I mean, yes, it feels like it's on brand with the conceit of the movie, which is it's gonna be comic booky. But now I don't want to hear people talk any shit about fucking any of the Tim Burton Batman movies, or even the Joel Schumacher movies. I mean, like, maybe Batman and Robin goes a bridge too far. I still enjoy the movie because it's like I love to hate it and I hate to love it kind of movie. You know, it's awful, but it knows it's awful. But Batman Forever, let's like just hold on for a second here. I mean, like, this movie felt a lot like Batman Forever to me. You know, like logic goes kind of out the window. We don't need to explain really anything or anybody's motivations. Like, things are just happening. Like, we just live in this world. It's colorful. It's silly and leans into the camp. So I don't know. I think now people need to reevaluate how they feel about those movies. I'm not saying I dislike this movie. It probably sounds like I'm saying I dislike the movie. I like the movie. I was enjoying it. I was laughing. There was a couple of moments, like even in the black hole scene, where I was kind of like, ooh, is he going to get sucked into the black hole, and then we're going to have to deal with the ramifications of being sucked into a black hole? I gave it, you know, walking out of it, like a 7 out of 10. So, you know, maybe like a C plus, so it's like 78 or 79, you know, maybe C plus B minus, like somewhere in the middle. It's like a 7.9, definitely not an 8, you know, like an 8 for me is like Ant-Man, you know, like the first Ant-Man movie. It's like a solid 8. It's a really fun time, and it also doesn't really like need to go too deep, and it's inherently silly in concept. So like, you know, we're not meant to like think too deeply about it. But I think again, I wanted to think too deeply about this. I wanted this movie to like have a lot of emotional resonance for me, like the Christopher Reeve like Superman 1 and even Superman 2. Same thing though. Okay, Superman 3 is bad. What is this, a Richard Pryor movie comedy or a Superman movie, and Superman is just a you know, side character in his own movie. Like, we all know this, right? Superman 4, I don't really see a lot setting this movie apart from it on a narrative level. Like, there's still like a strong thesis to that movie, and I think there's a relatively strong thesis to this movie too. While both films have a strong thesis, they're both silly and ridiculous and lean into the camp, and so why are we hating on that movie? The whole thing with the kid in Baravia, So much of the marketing leaned on that little kid's performance, and it's like a really great performance and some great shots. And he's like praying for Superman practically, and then just when we think Superman's going to be able to like show up there, of course, like we have to be undermined, and he can't, and so we get the Justice Gang, and so like you're left kind of just feeling flat, like it just felt flat. It's like, oh, here's an opportunity for a joke, which is again like the whole James Gunn thing is like, I think he just does this better in other movies where like, yes, he can undercut some of the drama in his movies like for some humor. I feel like it's more well timed in those movies. Here, I felt like it was just like obligatory because that's what people expect, rather than just letting it breathe. This movie didn't breathe. It's like saying to me that like you as an audience cannot handle like deep thought. I think in a way the movie was literally or partially about that. That people can't like look between the lines, and I think yes, our culture and some of these younger generations do struggle with that. With social media, and that being a big component of the film, and the rage tweet monkeys, and like again, that was funny. Felt like a real personal jab that James Gunn was making, and I'm fine with that. Like again, stick it to the man. But the movie, it just feels at the end, I'm just kind of like, oh, I really wanted to see Superman like end that war on like a Superman 4 level, where he's like, let me give a speech, but then he gives the speech to Lex, and then the speech to me just felt hollow, and he's just telling us what to think. There's so many problems with this movie, right? But like, it keeps telling you what to think, or telling you what happened, or telling you what's gonna happen, and not showing you, and not really making me believe in what's happening with these characters internally. It just could not figure out what it wanted to be, and it tried to be a Superman. It honestly felt like Superman 2, not like that movie Superman 2, or like the Donner Superman 2, but it felt like we were coming in like the second part of a story, and while we were, I feel like we needed more foundation and establishing of like who we're dealing with and like what the landscape is a little bit before we just get dive into it. And I feel like, honestly, if there was just about 5 minutes or 10 minutes of like that as a bit of a prologue, and then he crashes in on fucking, the Arctic and Fortress of Solitude, I might have pushed this up to like an 8.5, because I just feel like how you start a movie really impacts how you end it. And I feel like this ending, it just left me feeling cold. I felt like he was trying to emulate his style too much from his Marvel days. I feel like the Suicide Squad, it feels so different tonally from, Guardians, and Peacemaker feels different tonally. And I think, again, he's dealing with these ensemble casts, but I feel like he was almost like too afraid to just deal with this one character, Superman, and he needed to like throw in all of these other characters to kind of like dilute the Superman. It's like, to me, it felt like he didn't really want to deal with Superman. It felt like he didn't even want to really make this movie, if I'm being honest. Like, I didn't really get the sense that he felt that passionate about the character. I feel like I'm hearing him in the interviews, like, talk about Superman. I feel like he loves DC. I feel like he loves the characters. I feel like he loves reading Superman, or reading Superman as a part of, like, the landscape of that universe. But I didn't really feel his love for Superman. I felt the love that Bryan Singer had for Superman in Superman Returns. I felt, maybe not even the love, I think I felt the hate that Zack Snyder had for Superman in Man of Steel, which led to an interesting portrayal of Superman. This movie, I felt nothing. I felt nothing. And I think that's what I wanted the most out of it. It was just to like feel that optimism and hope and wonder that I felt when I watched Donner Superman for the first time as a kid. When you see him in the Fortress of Solitude, after like the 12 years that he spends there listening to Marlon Brando, and then you see him suited up with the John Williams score and then fly towards camera. Oh my God. I mean, you feel the hope. You feel the awe. And I felt like, and to quote Red Dragon, this movie owed me awe. It felt hollow. It felt flat. And so once again, I say all of this with, I did not hate this movie. You know, there's so much to like in the movie. The performances are great. It more or less looks pretty good. The special effects were fine. I don't think it's going to get nominated for any Oscars here. Maybe it will, you know, from a more political standpoint. Let's talk about the score. Every Superman property, including the animated series, maybe it's especially the animated series, even Lois and Clark, I feel like had a pretty good theme, you know, main theme for the credits and stuff like that. But every single Superman score, John Williams, amazing. You know, Ken Thorne's adaptation of John Williams' score in Superman 2, great. John Ottman's version of the Superman score and his additions in Superman Returns, amazing. I love that soundtrack. Man of Steel. Now, I know a lot of people are like kind of on the fence about Hans Zimmer's score. I love it. Honestly, I really love it. I feel like it really matches the tone. It's very ethereal to me. And I love the main theme. I feel like it's more drum heavy. I feel like it has the swell. I feel like it has, you know, this layering musically. This score, like, again, it's just like, it's fine. It's okay. I mean, I think I dig the remixing of the Williams score in principle, but I don't really feel like there's enough like weight or girth to it that it makes me really like excited or it really like scored what was happening in the movie, because the emotional through line in the movie is just so flat. It must have been hard to write music for it. Once again, I'm just resigned to, it's fine, you know, it's okay. Some of it I like. I mean, when you go see a movie, I think at the end of the day, that's what you want, right? You want to feel something. You want to feel scared, or you want to feel, you know, inspired. You want to feel hopeful or uplifted. And I think especially with Superman, a character that literally embodies like hope and truth and justice and, yeah, sure, the American way and all of that shit. I mean, I walked out feeling disappointed because I wanted to feel that stuff, and I think I'm a very emotionally intelligent person. I think this is why I'm so let down by it. I think after all of this anticipation, with all of this build up for this resurrection of the franchise, I'm just not that inspired. And I think with all of the marketing and all this lip service in the marketing about this movie being about, you know, kindness and da da da, I mean, it's just that. It's just lip service. You know, the movie can say that. The movie can tell you that. But the movie has to make you feel that. And it didn't. So yeah, I think I'm going to like stick with my 7. You know, I don't want to be unfair. I don't want it to sound like I'm just like besmirching it. I don't want it to sound like this movie was abysmal or that they didn't try, you know? Like, I feel like in a way, it tried too hard. I think it's trying to satisfy everybody and to be like this perfect start for this universe. And I think at the end of the day, it's a fine start to the universe. I think that's the more successful aspect of the movie. It's like it did establish everything that this DCU needs to establish about like the status quo. You know, it kind of did that with the first 2 text lines of the movie, you know, of like 300 years have existed. Okay, cool. Kind of want to see further elaboration on that, because then like, what about the Amazonians who've existed like, you know, for over probably 2,000 years, I would say. For the world building aspect, I'll give that like a 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, you know? Really well done. In conclusion, movies really do need to take advantage of these enormous budgets, and I really do feel like these enormous budgets, we need more time spent on that script. I just don't know if I would have been like reading the script and being like feeling any different than I feel like right now. And I wonder if I would have the balls, if I was at James Gunn level to even tell him that, or even tell him this, because I really respect James Gunn. I still respect James Gunn. I still think he's one of the most unique filmmakers like in this genre space, and I think he is perfect for DC. I'm so underwhelmed by this movie, and I wanted to be just so much more inspired by it. I mean, like, it made me think about, like, okay, when was the last time I did see a DC movie that made me feel that way? The Batman. The Batman. That movie, I think, was I don't know. I find it hard to think about things in that movie that I did not like or did not enjoy. The length of the movie is justified to me. It's layered. It's nuanced. It also does the same thing where it paints the Waynes as not all saintly, right? And it makes you question that, and like, do I like that? I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way, but it's evoking emotion. The whole idea of like we're spending more time with, Bruce as Batman rather than him as Bruce did the same thing in this movie. It just didn't really land. I am excited to see the movie again. Maybe my opinion will be different. And I might even hop on the mic and do an addendum to this video and just sort of like has my opinion changed with, second viewing. I guess there's at least Fantastic Four to be looking forward to. I'm now, I would say I'm more excited for that than I was for this, because I was more excited for Superman. I think like overall I am more of a DC guy than I am a Marvel guy. It's just Marvel has saturated the landscape so much that it's kind of like, okay, well, what am I going to invest in? I'm invested in that. Like, share, and subscribe, I guess.